The light of the world has come. Jesus is the light of the world. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness will never overcome it. A warm welcome to today's reflection, coming from Killin Manse. Well, it's January, and I don't know about you, but I actually find January one of the darkest and the greyest and the coldest of months. And it's strange because in December we have the shortest day, which means from then on the days are getting longer with the promise of spring and summer. But it never seems like that, because for me January often is a colder and darker month than December. And I don't know if that's just my imagination or if many of you feel the same. But January is an interesting month because it's named after the Roman god Janus, who had two faces. And the two faces, one was facing the past and one was facing the future, which is a good name for the first month of a brand new year. We can look back on last year, 2021. How was it for us? Of course, the COVID pandemic has changed so much for everyone. But we would all have had different experiences last year, good, bad, indifferent. And what are our hopes and our dreams, our expectations for this coming year? So the first month of the year is a good time for reflection, looking back, but also looking forward. The Christmas story reminds us that God is at work in our world in unexpected ways. And yet, as we go through life, we can have a mixture of experiences. The steady and the straight, the level, ordinary day, everyday experiences, which can have its tensions, but also its joys as well. And then the valley lows and the mountaintop highs. For some of you, you'll be going through a valley experience at the moment. It's not only January that's dark, but your own experience of life is clouded over by what you've had to go through, and indeed what you are dealing with just now, and will continue as we go on into 2022 to wrestle with some of these difficulties. Mountaintop highs are great, but they're fleeting, aren't they? They can be great. We have a great experience that just fills us with happiness and joy, and then it can pass. But my goodness, when they happen, they're great. Now the point here is that God is in all of that. The good, the bad, and yes, the everyday. He continues to be our God. My text for today comes from the book of Isaiah. And it's Isaiah 43, verses 18 and 19, where the prophet says to the people of Israel in exile in Babylon, which was a traumatic historical experience for the Jewish people. He says this, and it's meant to be the words of God. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I do a new thing. I am making a way in the desert and streams in the wasteland. And that was a promise that what had happened to Israel was difficult and bad, but God was still in that, but was going to bring something new to pass. That eventually the empire of Babylon would pass. It would be no more. Its power would be broken, and the people of Israel would be able to return to the land. And of course, that is what happened in due course. Which brings me to the whole issue, the whole point of our interaction with God. God's time scale is eternal, yet he works within the transient and the temporal to bring forward his will. but he works in partnership with nature and with humanity in history. Now think about it. We often think, well, God being God can do anything he wants. Technically speaking, or philosophically speaking, I should say, that is right. And yet theologians have pointed out, before God created, he could have created any world he wanted. But once he had created, God has decided to work with that. So what he set up, he will continue to work through until it is completed. Otherwise, the God of the Bible would be a capricious God. Every day he might change his mind. So he set nature up a certain way, he set human beings up a certain way as we interact with nature and with history. But maybe he gets bored. This is not working for me, I'm going to change it. What kind of world would it be? God would be capricious. We wouldn't know where we were from day to day because everything could change. But the laws of physics and of chemistry and of biology are there. So the world is law-like. That's how it works. That's why we have continuity. That's why science is even possible, because there is order, not chaos. And God has set that world up. And he's also set up humanity a certain way, and he has goals and dreams and ideals for us to work with us in partnership with him in this world to make it a better place, and for us to become who we're meant to be. We're all souls, eternal souls having a transitory existence here and now, being shaped and led and guided and moulded and drawing on rich experiences, good and bad. And God is with all of that. So when we read the Bible accounts, we realise there's a timeline. We would love things like that. And we think, well, God is God, so why doesn't he just do that and sort everything out, make it all better? Well, that's because he's working with the world he has created, within it, through it, rather than overriding it and overcoming it and just snapping his fingers and changing everything. What kind of world? We'd be all at sea. We wouldn't know what was happening if we had a capricious God who just wanted to change things depending on what mood he was in. But the God of the Bible is described as a God who knows the beginning and the end of all things and is working towards that end because he is God. And he works within human freedom and the foibles of the human personality to lead us, to guide us, to teach us. There's a car sticker I like, and I'm sure I've shared this with you before, that read on the back of a car that I was behind, if you're having a problem with your children, think how God feels. Every parent knows that. We work with our children. We can lead them, we can guide them, we can try to help them, but ultimately they learn and grow and become the individuals they are because we have to give them a measure of freedom. And that's the same with God and humanity. So think of it this way. God struggles with the human race. He chooses the people of Israel. He works with the people of Israel. But it's obvious that they drive him mad sometimes by not getting it. But he perseveres. And then through the people of Israel comes the Messiah. But even when the Messiah comes, Jesus is born at Christmas. And then there's nothing. He starts his ministry when he's 30. So we have this amazing story. And then 30 years later, Jesus comes. And for 3 years of ministry, only 3 years, but by goodness, 3 years that's changed the world and changed us. 3 years of his ministry, his death, his resurrection, and then the impulse of the church to go out, powered by the Spirit, to take this message to the four corners of the world. But that's a long timeline. We want things like that. And of course the expectation was when the Messiah came, everything would be sorted out. And then the claim is Jesus is the Messiah, but it's not all sorted out. We thought it was all going to happen like that. No, the process continues. So we're caught up in a process. So here we are in January, looking back on the year that was, and it will never be again, and we can let go of it. And we look forward in anticipation this year to all that God has for us. Now you'll note I have the picture up. The Christmas decorations have gone. It's one of my favourites. As you know, I've got three. One of the Benihee, one of The Hunters in the Snow by Bruegel, and then this one, Walking the Ridge of Life, with light on one side and darkness on the other. And there's the ridge that you can walk along. That's often what life is like for us. But with Jesus by our side, we're not alone. And with his guidance, we can live a full and productive life. May this year be a blessing for each and every one of us through God's grace. Amen. Thank you for watching. And once again, there will be a song link after the end of the service. Have a good week. Amen.